to the significance of the timing and the dates, you understand, to shows the target audience they have. And the target audience is not just Nigerians, whether Christians or Muslims. The target audience is the US evangelical Christian base. So one should not focus solely on what Trump is saying. The statement is meant to push a certain narrative for a particular audience, and that audience will get that message. You understand? Rather, you look at what happened, what took place. And going by what Bulama Bukarti said, a lawyer and a peace conflict expert and security expert, what he's saying is that these attacks, that there is a terror group called the Lakurawa. Now, this terror group are not known to have any affiliations with ISIS, the Islamic State, or with Al-Qaeda. You understand? But these are fighters that have, for several years, they've left other countries and moved into parts of the Northwest, Sokoto and Kebbi State. And in the past in the past a year or so, that they've been carrying out terror attacks. You understand? So this group will likely the target of this attack. But this group, they are not really, they don't pick and choose who they attack. You know, and the regions where they operate are more of, you see more of Muslims there. You don't have as much Christians as you have in the north central region, where you have more of the calls and the cries for genocide and stuff like that. You know, so practically speaking, this attack doesn't address the call that is coming from Benue and Plateau State. You understand? It doesn't address that, but it addresses the issue of insecurity. You understand? Because it's possible that they would have reached out to Nigeria, and Nigeria would have, you know, usually when the US wants to carry out attacks. So usually when the US president, if let's say, let me use an example now. If let's say they have a target, right? They would look at various options. First of all, if like now, the attacks that they are interested in is not only happening in one particular part of the country. It's happening in different parts of the country. It's happening in northeast, northwest, north central, and parts of southwest, southeast, you know, like that. So they have different parts, you know. So the options will be presented to the US President Donald Trump. He wants to make a statement. He wants to follow up with what he has promised, right? And so they will give him options. These options, they will consider things like, okay, because these groups, they don't usually, I don't think they have one particular place. In most places, they don't have a particular place where they stay. They move around, you know. And so it's sometimes difficult to say, okay, they'll be here, because before you strike that place, they could have moved or something like that. So they would want a place that, you know, that, oh, there's this particular place, the people used the targets, they used to stay in that place. And it's possible that the place is difficult for the Nigerian army to reach, Nigerian military to reach. Maybe they've been finding it difficult to even strike at that place. You understand? So they would advise the US government that, see, we have this particular place that we are trying to target, which we have not been able to target. And this place is kind of isolated. You don't have residential areas like that, you know. It's far away from residential homes, you know. So when you carry out the attack, the collateral damage, that civilians who could be affected, will be less. There will be less collateral damage. the strike will be effective, and it won't lead to it will not lead to harm to the US. As in, they are not one they are not they don't want to, because if you look at the strike, it appears more like the video that was released by the Department of Defense. They have the military ship, US ship, you know, in that has been moving. They said they went to Portugal, then to Morocco, and it's now in the Gulf of Guinea, the Atlantic Ocean, at the southern border of Nigeria. So they have these cruise missiles, which they can fire from that ship.
Good evening, gentlemen of the press. The federal government of Nigeria, in close coordination with the government of the United States of America, has successfully conducted precision strike operations against two major Islamic State ISIS terrorist enclaves located within the Bauni axis of Tangaza local government area of Sokoto State. Intelligence confirmed that these locations were being used as assembly and staging grounds by foreign ISIS elements infiltrating Nigeria from the Sahel region in collaboration with local affiliates to plan and execute large-scale terrorist attacks within Nigerian territory. The precision strike operations were executed between 12 midnight and 1:30 a.m. on Friday, December 26, 2025, following explicit approval by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR. The operation was carried out under established command and control structures with the full involvement of the armed forces of Nigeria under the supervision of the Honorable Ministers of Defense and Foreign Affairs, as well as the Chief of Defense Staff. The strikes were launched from maritime platforms domiciled in the Gulf of Guinea after extensive intelligence gathering, operational planning, and reconnaissance. A total of 16 GPS-guided precision munitions were deployed using MQ-9 Reaper unmanned aerial platforms, successfully neutralizing the targeted ISIS elements attempting to penetrate Nigeria from the Sahel corridor. During the course of the operation, debris from expended munitions fell in Jabo, Tambuwal local government area of Sokoto State, and in Ofa, Kwara State, near the premises of a hotel. No civilian casualties were recorded in either location, and relevant authorities promptly secured the affected areas. The federal government of Nigeria reiterates its unwavering resolve to confront, degrade, and eliminate terrorist threats, particularly those posed by transnational extremist networks seeking to undermine Nigeria's sovereignty and security. Nigeria remains fully aligned with its strategic partners and friends of Nigeria in executing coordinated actions aimed at ensuring lasting peace, border security, and regional stability. The federal government of Nigeria assures all Nigerians that it remains firmly in control of the national security architecture and is fully committed to the protection of lives and property. Citizens are urged to remain calm and vigilant as decisive actions continue against all terrorist groups threatening the nation.
To strike targets in Nigeria, so they want to consider, okay, the distance between where the ship is and the place they want to attack. And since you are using cruise missiles, you have to have a precise target that you want to target, and you now give the coordinates of that precise target, and they will consider timing and other variables and all that, so that the missiles can be shot from the ship in the Atlantic Ocean to the specific target. So one would think that they would have considered areas in the northeast. They would have considered areas. Let's assume that the ship is close to Lagos, for example, right? And you want to strike somewhere in the northeast. It will be farther off. But if you are attacking Lagos is in southwest, where the attack that's taking place now is in northwest, which is northwest southwest. The distance is shorter, right? So if they want to carry out this attack, the distance that the cruise missiles have to travel is shorter, then it's possible that the area they want to target, you don't have residential houses around that place, you don't have civilians around that place and all of that. So all these things would have weighed, they would have weighed them, and now decided, okay, this is the target, let's use this. Other options, other sites, other places would have been considered and possibly ruled out on account of not getting a specific target, or you have a moving target, or there are civilian buildings, residential areas, or things close to the place, and that will lead to a lot of collateral and damage. So that is that. And as I've mentioned, the symbolism of it in terms of the dates where it took place, then the symbolism of President Trump promised he was going to attack, and he delivered on that promise. He gave a warning and he followed through with it. You understand? It will not really matter much if the attack was 100% successful. It won't matter. What will matter is the fact that he said he is going to carry out an attack in Nigeria, and he did it. Something that they said has not happened in decades. It's not happened. Nigeria is a foreign power, you know, sending missiles into Nigeria. I don't think even in the civil war between Nigeria and the Biafra, was there instances of foreign countries sending missiles into Nigeria? I don't think so. So this is something that is rare, you know. It's something that is rare, something that has not, you know, happened before, or if it has happened, it has not happened for a long time. You understand? And so this thing now shows something. There is this principle that I used to talk about, that if something has not happened before, right? This a particular thing, if it has never happened before, the chances that it will happen is small, because it has not happened before. But when something has happened before, no matter what it is, it means that the chances that it will happen again and again and again is high. If Nigeria has not had a strike, a missile strike from a foreign nation, this one now is not that they sold weapons to us and our own military fired these missiles. No, this is a foreign ship armed with missiles got close to the southern border of Nigeria, and cruise missiles were sent from the ship into Nigeria, into Nigeria. That is something that possibly have not happened before. And now that this has happened, that symbolism is there. It means it can happen again. So that threat is there. That warning given, warning served, and this one now is still more of a warning. Even if the strikes were not that effective, Trump has proved a point that I can make a threat and I can deliver on my threat. And since the threat goes along with his will I call it propaganda, or let me use the word messaging, let me not use propaganda. Since it goes with his messaging that he is now the grand patron of someone who is protecting the Christian groups in the world, since it goes with that messaging, that symbolism and all that, so that is something that has happened now. and it's quite significant, and it shows that it can happen again. But then, as I've said, what is the effects of it? When Trump made the threat from Trump from 31st of October, early November, he first designated Nigeria as a country of particular concern. And then he now went ahead and said, if Nigeria does not handle this issue, it's going to go guns a blazing. When he made that threat, the president of Nigeria took that threat seriously, sent officials to the US to talk with the US government. The US government sent officials to Nigeria to talk with the Nigerian government. And changes have been made in the security architecture since then. Because since that time, we've had a Minister of Defense resigning on health grounds, and a new Minister of Defense have been appointed, who was the former Chief of Defense Staff. Now, very importantly, let's not forget that after Trump made that threat, 31st of October, 1st of November, and early November, since he made that threat, there have been series of worsening attacks. After that threat, there was a kidnap of schoolgirls in Kebbi, and then there was a kidnap of church members in a church that was being streamed in the north central region. Then the kidnap of more schoolgirls in north central region, in Niger's school children. So they were worsening mass kidnapping, and those mass kidnapping have the effect. They know that it goes viral. They know that the government will be more involved. They know that international media will pay more attention to it. So it has a propaganda effect. So there was a series of mass kidnapping that took place after Trump made that threat. And some even made the case that the threat that was made by Trump has made things worse. So now, you now have this situation whereby Trump was threatening to strike. Tinubu's government took it serious. They sent delegates to US, and Tinubu government made changes in the security structure, where the Minister of Defense was asked to go, and the former Chief of Staff, who was removed. The former Chief of Staff was not removed on account of performance. He was removed on account of the military coup. There was an alleged military coup around end of September, early October, that led to the cancellation of October 1st Independence Day parade. It was on account of that alleged coup that those service chiefs were changed. And so, with this pressure now that is coming from the US, and with the increasing kidnappings and all that, the Tinubu's government hand was forced. The Minister of Defense that resigned is former Governor Badaru, former Governor of Jigawa State. Is very close Tinubu ally. The Minister of State for Defense, Matawale, is also close to Tinubu. So, and under normal circumstances, Tinubu would not have asked Matawale Badaru to resign, because he needs Badaru for the next election, 2027 election, because Badaru was one of those governors, along with El-Rufai and others, who supported Tinubu in 2023 for him to emerge. So those former governors that form key members of Tinubu's cabinet, Tinubu doesn't want to play with them because he needs them for re-election. So, but because of so much pressure, Tinubu was forced to make that change and asked Badaru to resign and to bring in General Christopher Musa, who he has sacked on account of coup, allegation of coup, who he has sacked. He has to bring him back and appoint him as the Minister of Defense. So we see, and with this thing that has happened now, so we see that there's been a lot of pressure from the US on the Tinubu administration, and that pressure seems to have worked out, because it appears at a point that the government at a point was trying to blame opposition, politicians, and blame others for the worsening insecurity. But when the US put a lot of pressure on the government, Tinubu administration has to sit up and to take certain decisions which they would not have taken before. So, and now with this strike that has taken place, it shows there is increasing coordination between Nigeria and the US government, and it seems that that collaboration is now working, that has led to these strikes that has taken place, and now set a pathway for future collaboration to take place. So what has taken place now is significant in the terms of in the overall picture of the security efforts by Nigerian authorities to fight insecurity and stuff like that. So it's not about, some have made the case, oh, where the strike is not where the problem is, where the strike is not really where there is issue. The where they choose to strike wasn't because they felt that was where the problem lies. They wanted a target that they felt was easier, that was maybe closer to where the attack would come from, and also an area that is kind of isolated. And because so far we've not heard of any loss of lives, civilian lives, right? The bombs, the missiles that landed not too far from where people live, it landed on an empty field. It was when it landed that people came out, and it was in the night. So it was not likely that there will be farmers or others out at that time. So it landed in an empty field. So they picked an area based on certain considerations where they don't want collateral damage and where the message can still be sent and stuff like that. And that is not the point. The point is not where they attacked, or how successful they attacked. The point is that they attacked at all, and that they've laid the groundwork for what is to come. So, in a way, one could see is that I'm no fan of Donald Trump, but going by the pressure he has put on the Nigerian government, the Nigerian government has been forced to sit up. Nigerian government is taking this thing seriously. Instead of just sitting down and blaming opposition politicians as those who are causing the insecurity so that the government will not win in 2027, they are now taking more actions, taking the bull by the horn, and doing more to uh, provide protection for Nigerians. We just hope that what all we want is more security, more protection for lives. That is the most important thing. It's not really the talk of genocide plays into a certain narrative in the US and in other places, but the main concern for us is about security. You know, if it appeared that the government lacks the ability to really do certain things or carry out certain attacks, and the US is now helping the government and now helping the Nigerian military to carry out certain attacks which ordinarily they could not carry out, and if it now leads to the protection of lives and property, then it's going to be a win. So forget about the rhetorics from Trump, forget about what he's talking about. Some of the things they talk about is not meant for us. It's meant for the US audience, and it's meant for their own local politics and all of that. What we should be concerned is what is the outcome of these actions, the effects of these actions. How is it improving the security situation in the country, and not any other narrative.